Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. I wanted to make a video talking about what exactly in print and out of print mean for these products, because you see the terms going around and there's some subtlety to it that I think deserves an explanation. So you really have to understand the printing process. The way it works is there is not a press right now today running Crimson Vow draft boxes 24 hours a day. That's not how it works. Instead, what happens is WotC or Pokemon USA or Legend Story Studios, they'll go to a printing company and they'll order a print run of one of these products. And so that print run will take days to weeks, depending on the size of the print run and the complexity and some other factors. And it'll take that long to execute the entire print run, but that involves setting up machines, getting the artwork ready, getting the logistics of the assembly line ready. You know, you've seen some things like the pre-release kits, or Pokemon has all of their fancy boxes that may contain booster packs and singles and sleeves and a little action figure. And so, you know, it can be kind of complex to put together the assembly line, all the logistics and everything, and then physically make up the product. So it can take a while, but it's still more or less a discrete event that happens and then is done. And so when they do that, a huge amount of product gets printed all at once. And in the case of WotC with Magic the Gathering, they take all that product, many pallets or potentially many tractor trailers full. They take it to a warehouse and WotC stores it. And then a bit at a time, depending on a lot of factors, they release that product to distributors. Now, the distributors will be talking to WotC and telling them, this is what I need, this is how much I need of it, this is when I'd like to have it, things like that. So there's communication there. And distributors will get that product from WotC, say, you know, several pallets of Crimson Vow draft boxes, and then they will have already gotten commitments from individual stores on how much those stores want to purchase. So they'll start sending it out to the stores, and then the stores attempt to sell it. And then there's a feedback loop where the stores tell the distributors, hey, we want more, we want to reorder. And then the distributors, as they start running low, they'll go back to WotC and say, hey, we need this much more, this many more pallets, or this many more truckfuls, or whatever. Or they may say nothing. They may not at all go back and say, we need more, because they might already have plenty. So that feedback loop acts to make sure that the right decisions are made. But you kind of have to understand that the product gets printed, then it's done being printed for now, then the set has a release date where it's released out into the market. The product may get additional printings later. So just because WotC, and we're just using WotC as an example, it works pretty much the same way for Pokemon and LSS and others, but just because they've already printed once doesn't mean they won't print again. But the exception to that, they claim, is collector booster boxes, and so far it seems they've been honest about it, that they do one printing of collector booster boxes and then that's it. They never print more, even if the demand is very high. They just let the secondary market get ravaged by the high demand. Now, after all this stuff gets printed, how does this affect card stores? Well, when you have these multiple print waves that can release later, there's this problem that card stores will run into, where they will have already been asked by their distributors, hey, how much of this product do you want? And they might have optimistically said, you know, we want some number of cases. And it may be that in that first print wave, there is not enough product to satisfy what every card store said they wanted, but they're still on the hook to their distributors to buy that. And so later on down the line, let's say WotC releases some more product from their warehouses and it goes into the distributors, then the distributors will drop that product on the card store and say, hey, you said you wanted this, here it is. And so that can kind of create some cash flow problems for card stores, depending on how it's done. Of course, the famous example was last year in about October, November, when Pokemon USA suddenly released 6 expansions worth of reprints all at once onto card stores, and the price of everything just cratered. But hey, it was great for people like us. But what all of this also means is an interesting consequence is that out of print has kind of a weird meaning, because if we incorrectly thought of it as, hey, there's a machine that every day just spends all day running out Zendikar Rising draft boxes, then we could imagine one day they turn that machine off and the set is out of print. But again, that's not how it works. What would have happened is, say, they would have done an initial large print run of Zendikar Rising prior to the set releasing. Then, maybe they went back and they printed it a second time, or maybe a third time, or maybe even a fourth time for really popular products. Who knows how many times? But eventually, they would get done printing. They would move the product to the warehouse, send some of it to distributors. And over time, they would decide, hey, the product's old enough, the demand is waning, we're just not going to print anymore. Now, by that point, it would have not been printed for maybe several months. But they would eventually make a statement, or in the case of Legend Story Studios, they just outright say, hey, this is out of print, we're never printing it again. WotC can be more or less vocal about it. Sometimes you just kind of get word from distributors that the distributors will not be getting any more product. And so the out of print date is a much more squishy thing. It's not really demarcated by flipping a printing press to the off setting. So it's a little harder to gauge when things are out of date. And that's why I chose these 3 boxes, because obviously Ikoria, as of right now, February of 22, Ikoria is way out of print. It went out of print sometime like May of 21. And Crimson Vow is definitely in print, even though it's probably not on a printing press today getting run, but it's considered in print because it just released in, November? And Zendikar Rising is somewhere strangely in the middle. We don't quite know. It's probably not being printed today, but will it see the printing press again? Maybe, maybe not. And at some point soon, it may be officially declared out of print and there will be no more printings. But as far as I know, we haven't heard that yet. So I guess all of this kind of comes to a second question, which is, if a set is unpopular and cheap in its own time, can it ever gain value in the long term? And the interesting answer to that is, well, if it's unpopular, like Crimson Vow is very unpopular, then card stores will sell less of it. They'll tell their distributors less often that they need more of it. They'll buy less from the distributors. The distributors will sit on what they have for longer, and they will less often over the life of the product tell WotC we need more. WotC will release it out of their warehouse slower, and over the life of the product, there will be fewer reprintings of the product because there's just no demand in the market. And so the thing that kind of balances out is, even if it's an unpopular set, when it releases and in its own time, and let's say Crimson Vow just remains really unpopular for its entire, 12, 16, 18 month run, it can still appreciate well in the future because there is less of it in existence. Because it was unpopular and because it was bought less, and we can tell it's being bought less because the prices are low. That's the market signaling to us that people aren't buying it. But if it's bought less, fewer boxes are put away in closets. And so in the coming years, the price will go up faster because less of it is in existence. Because every time the price moves up $20 on sealed boxes of it, there will be fewer people who have boxes in their closet to be tempted to take them out and put them on the market and sell them. And so, the answer to the question of can they possibly gain value in the future is yes, of course there can, because there will be many fewer boxes of Crimson Vow sitting in people's closets than there will be of products like Modern Horizons 2. I mean, really, everybody should be putting away cases of Modern Horizons 2 because it's just going to age like wine. And another thing that I thought about when I was kind of, scratching out some notes for this was, why doesn't WotC or Pokemon USA or some of the other larger companies, why don't they buy a printing company? Everybody likes to harp on vertical integration as being great. And the reality is, vertical integration, depending on the specific product and what your industry is, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. But you would think that these card companies that do nothing but make cards would decide that buying a printing company would be a good investment. But apparently they don't. If you have any insights into that, I'd love to know, because I can't figure out why they wouldn't just go out and purchase Millennium Group or one of the other printers and stop paying a profit margin to the printers. I don't get it, but maybe there's a really good reason. And, this question originally came from a viewer in response to another video I did. And like a lot of things, I thought the question was so good that it deserved a video as an answer. So if you have a question you'd like me to take a stab at, let me know, leave it in the comments. Otherwise, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade. Thanks a lot.